Welcome back to How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom, anime review episode number 16. This I'm viewing the 16th episode of the anime. Tyranny is more terrible than tigers, which, according to the info released online, it's taken from the Book of Rights, Chapter 2, Thong Part 2. It's basically a title from a Chinese philosophy. That's simply what this comes from. Now, this episode adapts from Book 3, goes through pretty much the entirety of Chapter 5, and the extra story, a certain group of adventurers. Yep, they cover that. Which means that as of this very episode, there is pretty much about 3 chapters in a interlude, 3 chapters plus an epilogue. I don't think they're going to do the intermission ones. I don't think so. I would think the anime might save some of these particular intermissions for probably for, and this is my personal guess, they might save those for like an OVA, which I'm hoping the series does get one because there's material for it. Oh yes, definitely. You can explore like a character's backstory. Oh yeah, definitely. Now, in the case of this episode, well, we start off with basically like the announcement of basically what the meditation, what exactly is in the treaty that ends. Before they sign it, they have to reveal what details are. Okay. First things first, the principality is getting back Van. Okay. But they have to pay war reparations. And of course, Julius himself is upset by this, even though that is pointed out by, of course, Sotoma. His country's the one who started it. Though technically it was Prince Gallus the one who started it, but you have to pay war reparations, we're taking the gemstone, taking the books. Also, they do cut a little bit out here. There's a little, like, excuse me. When it comes to this scene, it's pretty accurate to the book for what way it's depicted here. I would say they cut out like I'd say a small handful of lines of dialogue, mostly put for a lot of weapons, and it was like one of the things they cut out here. And of course, they went and bring in the whole thing of books per se. They do, yeah, they bring in the fact that, well, not books, the weapons, and because basically Julius gets a little bit upset the fact that they had to basically touch the weapons, even though he said don't touch the weapons. And so, oh yeah, I took care of some of that. I sold some of those off in order to, well, take care of other stuff. Yep. And also they get the general Marguerite, Margaret, I think her name is. She showed up in episode, I think it was like 12, I think it was. The one who's voiced by Colleen Clickenbeard. Yes. Margarita Wander. Yes, she is allowed to stay in, well, she is allowed to, she basically, Sultan requests basically to keep her. And he's like, okay. And of course, basically, the whole thing with returning to the city, he gets prisoners back. But he may have a list of people that he is not handing over because they're going to be charged with war crimes. And Julius isn't accepting of this. And he also gave up 5 nobles in exchange for basically allowing Sultana basically to keep her. I'm like, okay, interesting. Also, there was a couple things that was very important to capture here. Number one, if in fact that they're laying a payment, like if they delay a payment, then the Empire will recognize the kingdom's annexation of Van. And also, the principality will be expelled from the Mankind Declaration. Which, of course, like, no, we'll do it. Fine, whatever. And after all that's done, then, of course, then we have the signing of the treaty that ends the 1-week war. And then, of course, after everything's basically all settled, Then, of course, he leaves. Then we have Sultana quoting, well, the title of the episode, Tyranny is more terrible, is terrible, more is terrible, is... We have basically the title of the episode, Tyranny is more terrible than tigers. Where he basically gives him a bit of advice from the Chinese philosopher. And, of course, Julius doesn't want to hear it. Now, in the book, in the anime, he was upset with basically Sultan basically speak to him just after he just signed a peace treaty. Yep. Oh, by the way, what was the payment for, well, the reparations? 2 years of their annual budget. Yes, seriously, that's what he wanted. Though the jewel itself basically took care of the first half of that anyways. He says he'll keep it because you're clearly not using it. We'll take it. Yep, take the jewel broadcast. And, of course, right after they leave, then, of course, we have... Before, there's the stuff with Circuit Revengers. I'll get to that later. And then we have it where we have the kingdom leaving. And, of course, people being sad because the kingdom actually was very helpful to them. And, oh, by the way, they do bring up Roanoke in this episode. Yes. And they actually do cut off her last name because in the book, they actually refer to her because basically her country's last name, Armenia, is her actual last name. They don't mention it here. It's like, where's Roanoke? And he's like, we didn't capture any members of the royal family. They disappeared. She left before they mentioned that she left before they took the capital. And there's mention about the succession thing, which that was brought up in the book. Okay. So then, of course, basically you have a carriage. Now in the book, basically they're riding horses. In the anime, they changed to where Sotoma, Aisha, Lucia, and the Prime Minister Akuya are riding in the carriage. And okay, yes, and of course everybody's upset with them leaving. And then right after that, and then, of course, they go back home, pretty much afterwards. Before I get to the next point, we got to talk about basically Genie and the Empire stuff. Now, in the book, Maria was actually sitting on her throne when she came back. In the anime, she wasn't. They actually changed locations for this one, where she's in basically a conference room. Well, basically, she's in her office this time instead of the throne room. And, of course, she's hugging her sister. Which in the anime, basically, they had it where when they hugged, Genie is shoved into her sister's chest. I am not kidding about that. That's what she does. Like, this is very becoming of an empress. And then they actually brought up something that was cut from last week's episode. Yes. Genie mentions to her sister about Sultana keeping a bed in his office, just like she does. Okay, that's not from the chapter this is from. That was something they cut from last week's episode. Yes, that's something they cut from the last episode about that conversation about that bed. And here they put it in here, which is quite interesting to put it in here. And of course, we have the monster races, which that was a conversation they did have last episode. Yeah, this actually is now with the exception of this scene here, with the exception of that addition per se. Not really much change here. Not really, no. They bring out the whole receiver thing, which, of course, the anime basically kept that part in because there was no mention of it at all. And then we cut to the end of the episode, during the last 7 minutes. So there's some slight change of dialogue here for this toward the end. So we have the adventurers, the one who popped up in the first 2 stories. They're back here. And Princess Leia basically is basically hosting a banquet to basically as a thank you. And you have Mr. Mascot there, and of course they all get drunk, and of course he gets knocked out, and turns out Sultana's posing as Mr. Mascot. And of course, Lucia notes, oh, that is cute. And of course, in the book he says, there's nothing going on there, and of course she's like, I wasn't asking about that. Which is quite interesting to say the least. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, well, that's pretty much where the episode ends. Pretty much it ends with pretty much the end of that particular extra story. Yep, that's pretty much where it ends at. Yeah, that's where it ends at, and well, that's the episode for you. Damn good episode. It surprisingly moved at a pretty good pace. And normally anime like this would cut stuff out. Here they kept pretty much a lot in. Like, if you compare from the book, which like I said, from book 3, chapter 5 and the extra story, it's mostly lines of dialogue that were cut. But unlike last time we cut a big plot point, this time, no, nothing major was cut this time. Surprisingly. Mm-hmm. Yep. But not much else to say about this episode. Just really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Any negatives about this episode? Well, they do have an image of Juna in the episode. The only negative I have is that no Juna. Yep. Great character. Love this character. And she doesn't make a physical appearance in the episode. Well, I do fault the book for that part. So, can't fault JC staff for that one. It's the book's fault. It's kind of the same thing, the reason why Roanoke is not in the episode. But she will return. Don't worry about that. So how long do I think it will take to finish up book 3? Well, given the fact there's 3 chapters, I think there's about 3 chapters and an epilogue left. Yes, that's pretty much all that's left, because I highly doubt they're going to adapt the intermissions. I highly doubt that. So, I'd say 3 to 4 episodes left, per se. Oh, in the episode they do bring up the secret alliance thing when Juna brings up to her sister, which that did happen in book 2, so that was important. They kept that in. Yep. But not much to say, just damn good episode. And yeah, as of right now, anybody noticing, no, this is one of 2 anime I'm currently viewing for new stuff where it's based upon a light novel. Yeah, the other one's of course Freya, which that comes out in just 4 days. On Thursday, no less. Yep. So yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my next video, which is going to be Demon Slayer. Yep. Next video. Bye.